right, welcome to today's edition of The Hatch right here on yours and my number one radio station, Radio Christian Voice. And today I am super excited. I have one half of the duo for King and Country, and of course in the studio via Zoom, I am joined by Luke Smallbone from For King and Country. Luke, I don't know if it's afternoon or evening that side or morning.
We're getting real close, man. We're 11:25 a.m., man. So we're close to the afternoon, but we're not really. Can you say it's morning at 11? I'm not sure we can even say that. So we're somewhere in the middle.
All right.
Thanks for taking the time to hang out with me, man. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much for allowing me to just have this conversation with you. All right. First and foremost, tell us about the origin of For King and Country.
Yeah, man. Well, originally born in Australia. Hopefully you can still tell my dad was a concert promoter in Australia, and on one particular tour that we had, going back to Australia, the tour didn't go very well. We ended up losing everything that we had as a family. We lost the house, and the car, and life savings. So we moved to Nashville, Tennessee, and soon after we arrived there, my dad lost the job that he had here in Nashville. So we were kind of straight on the other side of the world, no friends, no family. And we kind of went on a journey together as a family. And a couple of years after kind of being here, our sister is a singer. Her name is Rebecca St. James. And so we went on the road with her. Our dad kind of looked around at us and said, I've got 5 boys. I need cheap labor. These boys will work. And so we went on the road. And for probably the next decade of our lives, actually, we kind of just did music behind the scenes. And when I was 19 years old, Joel actually came to me and said, hey, man, we've been working kind of behind the scenes on music, for our sister. What if we were to start working on some music ourselves? And we ended up writing some songs and singing on some demos. And we were unsuccessful for probably 5-6 years. And then eventually signed a record label. And, fast forward at a number of more years, here I am getting the opportunity to chat with you.
Wow, awesome. And now you received quite a lot of accolades and awards. And how do you manage to balance your Christian life with all this success that you guys have now?
Well, I think it's probably a little bit similar to you, Lewis. You probably got into radio because you loved it, because you felt, I love this illustration of Chariots of Fire, Eric Liddell. I don't know if you've seen that movie, but it's got a famous soundtrack. And someone goes to him, and he's a very famous Olympian, and they say, man, of all the things that you can do, you're a missionary, you're a speaker, you can do all these wonderful things, but you've chosen to be a runner. Why do you run? And he says, I feel the pleasure of God when I run, so I run. And so to me, it has nothing to do with accolades. I mean, that stuff is going to burn, who cares about that stuff? But if you feel the pleasure of God when you're doing radio, or in my situation, when you're doing music, man, I think that's what calling is. I think that's why you when you start to develop love for certain things, that you want to put in a little extra because you feel the pleasure of God when you do it. And so that to me is why we do what we do.
Mm-hmm. All right. So how do you manage? I know you're a family man, and of course you're on the road most of the times. I should be thinking you're on tour right now, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
It's how do you manage to have time for your family and balance your.
Yeah. I mean, look, if someone wrote a book about it and you can figure that out for, I think that you have to recognize that it's difficult. I bring one of my kids with me pretty much everywhere I go. I got my son, he's 5, he's over there playing. Mm-hmm. But my wife, she's never out, she believes in this, we get to tell people, and hopefully in a creative way, about the hope and the love of Jesus. I mean, we're only here for a very short while, and just a wish, right? Is that what it says in Scripture? And so for us, it's balancing, understanding that, look, God has given me a wife, and God has given those 4 kids to just me. No one else. No one else is their father. That's nobody else's job but mine. So if what I do ends up becoming such a big obstacle for them, maybe I need to look at doing something else. But as of right now, we can only probably do 70, 80 shows a year. And yes, there's still other things that take place in town, but I try to take the kids to school whenever I'm home, and in some cases you get more one-on-one time, because when I'm gone, I'm gone. When I'm home, the hope is that I'm home, I'm at home.
Mm.
And yeah, I'm gonna do phone calls and some of these other things, but that's kind of how we balance it.
Mm. Interesting. Now you've worked with quite a number of other gospel artists. How has been the experience, and what are some of the lessons that you have learned, and how did that experience impact your ministry?
And I think it's always a gift to work with people that approach music a little bit differently to you. You know, you kind of learn, like, I mean, I only know the way that I understand music, you know, and I have great limitations in my understanding of music, but I was raised around music, and you know, music has become maybe an instinct for me. But what's wonderful is working with some of these other folks who are unbelievable singers, you know, unbelievable songwriters, and taking, learning. You know, one of the things that's interesting about music is you can learn other people's genres, and then you can start to apply it to your genre. And it doesn't necessarily mean that you're just copying; you're just taking little flavors. And I think that's how you actually make unique music.
Yeah.
And so I think that's been kind of the fun part, is, you know, learning a little bit about their flavors, and then trying to figure out, man, how can I maybe bring that into some of the music that I do.
Yeah. All right. So, just on top of your head, if you had an opportunity, I don't know if you listen to most of the African gospel artists. Do you know anyone, by the way, in Africa?
And not off the top of my head. No, not off the top of my head. No.
But you've heard about Snatch? The one that sang Waymaker, Miracle.
Oh, I have. Yeah, I have heard that one.
Awesome,
Yeah,
awesome.
Yeah.
All right. Let's talk about your relationship with your brother. I don't know how it works with you, but what time and again, I do have issues with my siblings. How do you manage to maintain the two relationships? Your brothers, and you are a duo as well. How do you differentiate? How do you differentiate between your professional life and your relationship as brothers?
I mean, I think in some cases, the more that you can not differentiate it, the better. Like, man, I mean, I work with him, but he's my brother.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, that's not changing anytime soon, you know, and it will never change, you know. And at the end of the day, I've often said that, you know, if I was to work this closely with a friend, if we had a disagreement over something, yeah, it might be very easy to just say, man, and, you know, I'm done. You know, I'm going to go do something else. I just can't, I'm frustrated with you, doing, you're my friend, but you're backstabbing me, or, you know, whatever. But when it's your brother, it's like, man, I still got to do Christmas together. You know, I'm still going to do Easter together. We're still going to do Thanksgiving here in the States. And you've got to reconcile. I think one of the things that, you know, families taught me a lot about is actually just that. It's, man, you know, the heart of Jesus is that he gives you grace, that there's forgiveness, right? And in some cases, I think the closest that we can give, that we can be to Jesus, is actually forgiving people, because that's the heart of Jesus. That's what he does time and time again. And we are so sinful in nature, but when we forgive someone for a wrong, I think that's when we're closest to the heart of God, because that's what he does. That's his nature, right? And so for me, it has a lot to do with that. Man, when there's an issue, we talk about it, we forgive each other, and we move on, you know? And I think that, you know, Joel's one of my best friends in the world. We've worked together for, you know, I don't even want to say the number, a very long time now. And we've learned to recognize how we're different. Joel is a great leader, and I can lead as well, but you know what? He's my older brother. I allow him to do most of the leading, because that's a gift for him. But there's also other gifts that I have that he doesn't have, and he recognizes that, says, you know, Luke, why don't you take this one? And I think that we have a pretty good game.
Yeah. Now, this is a youth show. You're a father now. What advice would you give to that young person that is going through a lot today? And, you know, with the coming in of social media and technology and all these, a lot of young people out there, you know, suffering from self-identity, you know, depression and all these mental issues. What would be a word of advice to that young person out there?
Yeah, I mean, look, I'm no expert in this, and you know, one of the things that you're probably the same as me, Lewis, in that when I was growing up, some of the things that this generation is dealing with and fighting is very, very different even than what I was dealing with, you know, seemingly just a few years ago. And I would say, hey, man, community is a really, really important thing in life, but we're so easily swayed by man's approval and what somebody else thinks of us. And I would say, when you speak of identity, it's very important to understand that, look, we're all sons and daughters in this world, but first and foremost, we're sons and daughters of God. And when we can see ourselves from that lens, that's when calling and that's when purpose comes into play. And man, I was raised in the church, and I don't know if most of the people listening to this were raised in the church or not, but I remember people talking about, spending time in scripture and spending time in prayer. And I knew that in theory that was a good discipline. But when you read it from the eyes of someone who cares for you, that wants what's best for you, all of a sudden you realize that those disciplines of loving your enemies and learning how to forgive, you become someone that doesn't have a lot of the issues of today, which is depression or anxiety. You become someone that knows, man, I may have issues in my life. I know that there's a God above that loves me, cares for me, and that triumphs over all of the things. And that's not to negate the pain that we go through, because look, pain is everywhere. Yeah. But what I love about the heart of God is at least we have somewhere to turn for guidance, for counsel, for wisdom, and ultimately for love and forgiveness.
Interesting. What is the soul message of your music?
And I would say that, our hope is in music is to put hope on display for people. I mean, we're pretty keenly aware. We write about our own struggles and our own things that we're working through and journeying through. And I think that our hope is that people will see Jesus and hope in this music. I think that Jesus was one of the greatest entertainers and greatest storytellers in the world, because that's how he basically changed the world. He told parables, and so for us, our hope is to tell these stories, to tell people about some of the things that are going on in our lives, and hopefully they start to see Jesus do it. And ultimately, I hope they actually find that very thing. I hope they find hope.
All right. I can tell by where are you on tour right now?
Yes, we're on tour. Yeah, I'm in a place that is louder than I would like, to be honest.
No, I love the ambience.
Yes.
I love the ambience. It gives life to our conversation. All right.
There you go.
Any new projects that we should look out for from you?
Yeah, well, we got a new song coming, hopefully in next couple months, called "What Are We Waiting For?" And that's gonna have CeCe Winans on it, as well as a country artist by the name of Ginny Allen. And so we're really excited to be able to share that with you guys, hopefully in the next 2 months. So that's the next big project. We're also working on a film. I told you a little bit about our journey from Australia to America. And that film kind of chronologicalizes that journey, that struggle that we went through as a family. And so we're really excited about all of that's coming down. That's probably a year away from now, but there's a lot of work to be done now.
All right, I don't want to keep you long. I know you have to get back to preparing for the event that you have. Your last words to the viewers and the listeners.
Oh, you're too sweet. Well, first, thank you so much for the time and the listening. And obviously, hopefully, we would love to be able to make it over there to see you guys at some point. Obviously, there's a lot of stage in the journey, but we'd love to be able to be there with you. But one of the things I love about the hope of Jesus is that we may be separated by an ocean, our souls are still connected, and that's a beautiful and wonderful thing. So hopefully we get to meet this side of heaven, but if not, on the other side.
It was definitely. Luke, thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule just to talk with me. I really do appreciate it.
Hey, thanks, Louis. I appreciate you, man.
All right. There you have it. I was talking to Luke from For King and Country. And of course, I'll be back next week right here on yours and my #1 radio station, Radio Christian Voice. Have a pleasant listening.